All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining the village for our Juneteenth Unscripted. Happy Juneteenth to all of you, and happy Father's Day to all the fathers on the call as well. Hopefully you all were able to celebrate and recognize Juneteenth and Father's Day in a way that was meaningful for you all. Again, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Before we get going, just wanted to kind of let everyone know that we have started a new YouTube page for our Unscripted. So if you just go to YouTube, actually, I'll put it in the link chat for you so that way you have it. You can download that link and or go to that link and you'll find all the recordings for our previous unscripted interviews. And once this one uploads, we'll get this one up there as well. So excited to have that there as a resource so that way folks can go and check out the interviews from our Scout executives and all of the other programs that we have been doing. Without further ado, I will hand this program over to Tanya Dobbins, and she will get us going with our interview with Mr. Charles Flowers. Tanya, thanks for hosting today.
Well, thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. Thank you, Charles, since you're in the hot seat.
Glad
that we could do this together today. So let's just jump right in. Charles, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I will. So let me start off first by thanking everybody for joining us this afternoon. I'm pretty humbled by the response. Over 60 people taking time out of their busy day to spend some time with us and to support me in this effort. I'm truly humbled by that. More importantly, though, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing in scouting to better your communities. Want to thank the village for giving me this opportunity to spend some moments with each of you this afternoon. And on a larger scale, I want to thank the village and the other workforce resource groups, RAS, Listo, VIEW, and as well as APAC for what you're doing in terms of mentorship and providing community among our executives. So about me, I started my career in 1994 with the Robert E. Lee Council in Richmond, Virginia. From there, went on and served in Kansas City, starting in 2000 as a district director. 2003, had the unique opportunity to go to Columbus, Ohio, and serve as a development director, and then as a field director in 2003. In 2006, went to Irving, Texas, and worked for the Center for Professional Development as part of their faculty. In 2008, moved to Pittsburgh as the director of field service. And then in 2013, I went to Milford, Connecticut as a Scout executive, and from Milford, I came here in Raleigh, North Carolina, in 2020, February of 2020. So that's a little bit about me. And again, I want to thank you, Tanya, for issuing me some grace during this call.
So I got to ask, just because a lot of us probably came in either through a job posting or maybe a friend or what have you. And I know, being a volunteer, I didn't even know anything about the professional side, obviously, of scouting. I knew business, but that's about it. So I didn't even know you could actually get paid to have this much fun, right? So tell me, how did you learn about scouting as a career?
No, that's an awesome question, and I agree with you. I had a pretty stellar youth career. Had an opportunity to start the program and as a Wolf Scout. Progressed through the program, earned my Eagle Scout rank, served on camp staff for 4 years. Had an opportunity to actually sit at the dining room table with two tremendous volunteers, my parents. But throughout all of that, I didn't understand that there was a band of dedicated, mission-driven people in Richmond on the professional staff that was helping to drive the program forward. Just had no idea that it was professionally led in that manner. So I got my entree into it through camp staff. The Scout executive came out and talked to the camp staff about joining the profession. But saying that, I still forgot about that as an opportunity. I wanted to be a city manager. And so I went to Virginia Commonwealth University, earned my bachelor's degree there, and then went on to North Carolina State and earned a master's in public administration. And again, had intent to be a town manager and a city manager eventually. But I just needed one reference letter to complete my letter. I mean, my packet of employment, because I was entering into this internship program that at the conclusion of it would have put me on a track to become a town manager. And I sent my resume back to the camp director of the Raleigh Council. His name is Bill Giveler. His son is now in the program as a professional scouter as well. And Bill talked to me for about an hour and a half about what a professional scouter's role is in scouting and the role he plays in the community. And from that opportunity, I was just hooked. He invited me in, spoke to Terry Kaufman and Alf Tugger at the time, who was the scout executive. And it was a done deal from that point forward. And 29 years later, I've been in the profession, but I had no idea up until my 20th birthday that there was a professional scouting element to scouting.
Wow. Wow, that's impactful. I guess I would be the same way. I didn't realize that this path was here. And I would have to say, if anything, it's definitely a calling. So glad to have you here. Glad that you are here and the path that you've taken. So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I just completed SLE1. And so I can say that it was quite interesting, very informative, but man, was it intense. So with that being said, knowing that, that's a career path that leads you to pretty much scout executive for those that attend, what could you possibly say when you went through SLE 1 and 2, what were some of your greatest takeaways? Number one, and since we are assigned a mentor, who was your mentor and what was your takeaway from that particular relationship?
Excellent question.
Pressure.
No, that's good. So I would say the biggest takeaway from SLE1 was the enormity of the job, because I thought the staff at the time did a tremendous job, and the guest scout executive did a tremendous job of outlining all of the elements of the role of a scout executive. And you really can't understand the complexity of the job until you're sitting in the chair. And I just thought that they did a great job of issuing and offering that preview into the chair in the life of a scout executive. I think the biggest lessons learned were in the fiscal management arena. Mm-hmm. And so kudos to Don Day and his group for that. Like I said, I have my MPA, my master's in public administration. So I was used to looking at fiscals and P&Ls, if you will, and understanding, assets and liabilities and credits and debits. But that three-fund accounting was something that I had to get accustomed to, and I just think they did a great job of showing you, what the reasons for those different funds and the different financial statements were about. I'm trying to remember who my coach counselor was, and I'm drawing a blank on the name.
That's okay. Has there been anyone else that mentored you through this process rather, to where you're at now that you can kind of reflect back on? And then how did that relationship start?
Well, I am the proverbial turtle on a fence post. I did not get there alone. And so I stand on the shoulders of a lot of tremendous people. One, he's the guy who I lean on even today, and that's John Coleman. John and I met, I want to say in 2006. I was at CPD at the time, and he was the scout executive of Monroe, Louisiana. And he was the guest instructor for a PDL2 class that I was the CPD faculty member for. And I had heard the name because he and I both served in Kansas City, but at different times. And there was a guy named Eric Dickinson who used to reference John Coleman all the time. And so when I had an opportunity to meet him and work with him, I just knew that he was a guy of sound character, He understood the profession, and he was one that, I just felt like I needed to learn from. And so he graciously took me under his wing. But there's so many. I mean, there's guys on this call, Charles Tinsley, Jeff Isaac, Richard Fisher, who just recently retired, John Fitzpatrick. You just name, I just go down the list, and I was able to learn so much from each one of them. Ray Blackwell, who was the Central Regional Director when I was in Kansas City and in Columbus, learned so much from him just on how to be a true professional, how to navigate some tricky waters at times. Ron Oates, I mean, it's just Willie Alves. The list is too long. Alf Tuggle, I learned so much from Alf, who was my first Scout executive. The list goes on and on. And again, if you're on the call and I didn't say your name, I apologize, because I learned so much from so many.
Good deal. Well, it's always good to have mentors that you can reflect back to, and then also mentors that are current. So I would have to champion that with you. I think through now my time, not only with scouting, but even just as a professional, in and out of scouting, there's been so many people that have influenced and shaped where I'm at currently, and definitely, kind of weighing in and speaking into where I'm going. So I definitely agree with that. So question though.
Yes.
What lessons have you learned, that you believe all scouting professionals should be aware of? You've got an extensive background, and you've kind of been through a lot of different councils as well as positions.
No, great question. I want to go back to the one I just left. I mean, some of my contemporaries are pouring into me today. Had an opportunity 2 weeks ago during the Council Scout Executive Summit to interface a little bit with Tracy Tackow. Think the world of him as well. Marvin, he's in Houston now. Marvin Smith, love that guy to death as well. Terrence, I mean, you just name it. There's so many of the current contemporaries that are pouring into me on a daily basis as well. But in terms of lessons learned and things that I think are important for all professionals at all levels of the organization. First one is just take accountability for your actions. I was taught at a young age, if it is to be, it is up to me. And so that means, you just take accountability for all of your actions, and you take accountability for the outcomes of your actions. I had to learn patience along the way. And so growing where you're planted is super important, and just trust that God has a plan for you, and that you can't rush that process. And so take your time and learn all that you can. I tell all of my new district executives to be a sponge, learn all that you can in your current assignment, and sort of be emblematic of that sponge. A sponge, when it's wiped over water, will soak up what it was intended to soak up, and then when lightly pushed upon, when there's a little bit of pressure applied to it, it will release what it is just absorbed. And so I tell people all the time, just be that sponge. The other thing is learn early on the anatomy of a sales call. Learn all that you can about your council, its products, its camps, its features, and then know a little bit about yourself. Know what makes you tick. But again, the anatomy of a sales call is so important, and knowing when to advance in the sales process is important, because from day one, you'll be selling the scouting program. You'll be selling to the community. You'll be selling it to other scouters. In terms of volunteers, you'll be selling it to scouts or potential scouts, and to prospective community organizations. And so, know your company, meaning your council, know its products, its camps, its offerings, know the programs of the Boy Scouts of America and the things that we can do through the rules and the regulations, and just again learn all that you can along the way. I tell my district executives all the time, don't get frustrated through the process, because if you can stick with this thing for at least 18 months, the cycle of scouting will make sense to you. You know, I can say to you now, start to get ready for our school roundup. You'll understand that this is a massive campaign, but a year from now, you'll be telling me it's time for me to start to get ready, and you'll be telling your volunteers that it's time to get ready, because you will remember what you've gone through. And so once you've lived it once, you'll have a better, fonder appreciation for the whole process. And so those are some of the things that I would suggest, you know, just for any professional. Understanding the sales anatomy, taking full accountability for the outcomes of your actions, and then just being a sponge and learning all that you can learn.
Good deal. I appreciate that. I think if anything, that's definitely true, especially if you've been blessed enough to move around to different councils. You know, the program may stay the same, but it's a little different when you're learning a new community, and new area, as you move around. So that's really good, good advice. I'm in my 4th council, so I definitely will take heed of that advice. So question, you moved around quite a bit too from council to council, and you've had various positions. Any that were a favorite? Hot seat question. Any councils that were a favorite? Any positions that were a favorite that you enjoyed probably more than others?
Well, I will say where I'm at currently is my favorite, but in all truth, I mean, you're never too far away from home. I mean, home is always where the heart is, and so Richmond will always have a very fond spot in my heart. I did my scouting there. Like I said, I had a decent upbringing through scouting there. It's where my family did its scouting. My mom and dad were key volunteers within that council. My brothers earned Eagle there as well. I served on camp staff there, and 6 years after earning Eagle, I went back and served the district that I grew up in. And so Richmond will always have a fond spot in my heart. The first 29 years of my life was spent there. So, but again, I love where I'm at currently. You know, the volunteers are amazing here. We have a tremendous staff, very mission driven, always looking for constant improvement. We're looking to serve our customers and the communities that we serve. I love it. Familially, I would say Kansas City. My son was born in Kansas City. My daughter was born in Richmond, but my son was born in Kansas City. And so we have a fondness for that, because, you know, just seeing some of the things that, you know, even, you know, just a couple of days ago on Father's Day, we were talking about some of the things that he remembers doing in Kansas City as a youth, and the neighbors that we had, and some of the traditions in the church that we attended. And so, you know, from a family point of view, Kansas City was kind of neat, but had a good time in Pittsburgh too. And so there's really no favorites outside of Richmond and Raleigh currently, but very fond memories of all of the stops along the way. I can tell you my wife's favorite spot was in Texas. I mean, she was very upset when we left that Irving area, but yeah, good question. Hopefully I didn't dilute it by giving you every city that I ever worked in.
No, not at all. You know, we were good till we mentioned Kansas City. Are you a Chiefs fan?
Oh,
Are you a
stop.
Chiefs fan?
I am a Chiefs fan. Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
gosh, this interview is over.
Well, you know, so I've had a good fortune of working in some sports towns, and so yeah, outside of Richmond, where we were pulling for the Washington team, you know, it used to be called the Redskins, now it's called the Commodores or the Commanders, whatever their name is now.
I know they can't figure it out either.
Exactly. But Kansas City was just a sports town. I mean, they were ravenous about their Chiefs, and it was very difficult. Like I said, the church we went to, the pastor, on game day, he would encourage people to wear their jerseys. I mean, it was just a ravenous town for those Chiefs. And we were there when Trent Green and Dante Hall and Priest Holmes and all those guys were playing at a high level. In fact, the year we left, they were 13-3 and lost to the Indianapolis Colts in the first round. But it's hard not to root for the Chiefs. I mean, they're a good organization, very much like the Pittsburgh Steelers, in their ownership, and it's just top down, from top to bottom. They just breed community, and that's one of the things I like about them. They're a winning organization, but they're all about the community.
Well, that may be true. I might be the only Bengals fan in Columbia, Missouri, surrounded by a bunch of Chiefs fans, but that's all right. I'm diehard. I am born and raised in Cincinnati. I'm a Bengals fan. I'm a Reds fan. So yeah,
I love your loyalty. I love it.
It gets very interesting in Columbia during sports season. So glad to hear that. So
Yes,
cool
indeed.
games.
So
So,
are you a Mizzou fan? You like?
once again, University of Cincinnati, I'm a Bearcat. So I will attend because, as you stated earlier, got to learn the district, got to learn the council, got to learn. Yes, I'm embracing it. But in my heart, yes, I am definitely Cincinnati.
Good. I love it. I love it. Stay true to your hometown.
You got it. You got it. Die hard. So big time. Yeah. So yes, I do attend the games. I don't wear those colors together. They remind me too much of the Steelers.
Oh,
I do attend the games. It is what it is.
I went to VCU, so that black and gold is strong in my life.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Good deal. So with everything that you've gone through, everything you've been, what would you say would be one of your high points in your career? And then reflecting back, what are some of the low points of your career? I think we've all had them where, there's days where we question, wow, do I still want to do this? And then there's something that, will, just give you a little bit extra boost. There could be a volunteer that sends you a thank you or something out of the way. Or youth that, you might know that, is on their way to Eagle, or they turned in their Eagle application. What was it for you, or what is it for you that just motivates you to keep you in? But what's your high and your low?
My high and my low. So I would say right now that the high is, our council, when I came here, I inherited some debt. And even through the COVID years, we were able to pay that debt off. It was a 7-figure amount, and we were able to pay that off with some strong ask of some key volunteers, just by planting a vision, casting that vision out, and getting them to embrace that vision. We wanted to be debt free so that we were free to grow, and so we were able to achieve that in 2022. So I'm super excited about that. A low point is probably not within the scouting context, but it sort of is. And this is another lesson learned. And I would say for those who have spouses, significant others, whatever, is always make sure that the family is in line with every move that you make, particularly when it's time to move out of a council. And so I go back to, the time of CPD. We were only at CPD for 2 years. And, after, putting my name in to go to Pittsburgh, that's when I realized just how much my wife loved that Keller, Texas area. And so that was a very trying moment in the Flowers household, convincing her that this was for the better, to move as a family, to move as a unit. To Pittsburgh, because at that point she had no interest of moving, and so that to me was the lowest, and that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned. And it can't be a tacit, sure, I'm willing to support you. I mean, really make sure you garner the support of those who are around you, those who that you love, those who love you, those who support you. before putting your name into the hat, because once you put your name in, you need to be 100% committed. Once you are granted that interview and granted that position, that you'll accept it. And so again, there were some trying moments in the Flowers household during that time period. And so that was probably my lowest point. Professionally, I think just God has been blessing me throughout. I mean, he's he definitely looks out for babies and fools, and he's been looking out for me. There was one moment in 15 where, after a business practice assessment, that things got a little rocky within the council relationships, and it just, it all worked itself out. The truth actually came out in the water, but there were some low moments there too, where you question, I'm being loyal to people, why aren't they being loyal back? And so, to a person who bleeds the loyalty part of scouting, because you don't move 8 times with the company without being tied into its mission and its values and the outcomes of the organization. You just wonder sometimes why others didn't reciprocate that. And so that probably was a low point too. But personally, the lowest point was when my wife was saying, "Hey, I don't want to leave Texas. You can go," but fortunately, through God's grace and His mercy, she moved along. She came with us, and we've been a tight unit ever since.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, thank you for asking. That gave me a chance to reflect on that, on both parts of my answer.
Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. It's very insightful, because I think a lot of times we have to reflect back on not just our move, but we're moving family. And then what does that look like? And so I'm quite sure there's probably quite a few people that have had to make that same decision, or had that thought, or those conversations with their spouse or family as well. So definitely appreciate that. Something you said that was really interesting, and it kind of leads me to my next question. I was in the movement, then I left the movement, then I came back. And someone just recently asked, my motivation for staying in scouting, and I had to reflect back on, my teaching of, the word of God, Jeremiah 29:11, that God has a plan, for my life, for me to prosper. And, every time something happens, I think about that. It's not my plan, it's His. But something that was even more invigorating was when I went through SLE1. One of the biggest things, or one of the biggest things that kept all of us, kind of thinking and focused, in scouting, was the fact that, for us, we're servants, and it's a servanthood while we're here. And we reflect back on our spirituality, which was really interesting, that all 12 people in our class all had the same thing as a number 1. And that has been the motivating factor to keep us in scouting. So I asked that question to you, because obviously we know that, God's in control of this, or, whomever you serve. What's kept you in scouting? What has kept you focused? What has kept you driven to look at, the end goal?
Pretty much that. I mean, from Jump Street, I go back and I talk about how Terry was talking to me, and then my subsequent interview with Alf, but prior to that, I mean, it was definitely a calling. The Lord pretty much, He placed this on my heart to serve, and so this has been my ministry ever since. When I accepted the call, I kept saying I wanted every young person in Richmond to at least hear about scouting. And I pretty much, for the 5.5 years I was there, I made that my business, to any child, any organization in the communities that I served heard about scouting, and they heard about it from a firsthand experience. I was scouting a lot. Growing up there in the 80s, there wasn't much to do in the community that I grew up in Northside Richmond at the time. There weren't a lot of things, and so we had one playground, and that's where a lot of basketball was being played, and a lot of other things, kind of when the street lights came on, were being done. And so, I had strong parents, strong grandmother, always in the church. But the streets are strong too. I mean, they pull. And so Scouting was one of those organizations that allowed those young people, those guys who were in my cohort that joined the Scouting movement at that time through Providence Park Baptist Church, gave them a chance to recalibrate their Polaris, their North Star, and to focus on something a little bigger than themselves, and to reinforce some positive values that weren't necessarily being talked about on the basketball court or in the playground that surrounded that basketball court. And so, I owe Scouting a debt of gratitude, but that was one of the things that was reminded to me when God was calling me to join this profession. Because again, my mind, you say the plans that he has for you, you're right, in Jeremiah. My plans, Charles's plans, were to be a city manager, and I knew in my heart that that's what I wanted to do. I had studied for that. I felt I could be a good city manager, but God said, no, I need you where I need you. And I didn't want to be like Jonah. I didn't want to get swallowed up in the well, because I wanted to go to Tarshish, and he's saying, no, you're going to Nineveh. And so I did. I followed that. I was obedient to that, and I have no regrets.
Good deal.
I have no regrets.
Appreciate that. I love it. I love the question. If anyone has questions, you can actually just send them through the chat, and I'll go ahead and ask them. But Tracy had one. I didn't get the opportunity to work with Tracy when I returned back to Cincinnati, so darn. Always wanted to. He clearly had done some amazing things in Cincinnati, so hats off to Tracy. But he had a question for you, and he goes, what's the best way for experienced Scout executives to support their younger executives? Good question.
Okay, what was the first part of that?
So Tracy asked, what's the best way for experienced Scout executives to support younger executives? No,
great question, Tracy. And I'm with you. I did not get a chance to work with Tracy. He served in Kansas City prior to me getting there. But I followed his career. I mean, and Tracy's just one of those professionals who's a class act. But what I would say to his answer is, and I know he emulates this, but it's just spending time with them and mentoring them as often as you can. The role of the Scout executive, just as the role of any staff leader, is to create the vision and then cast that vision out, and then to share it as often as he humanly possibly can. But then to figure out where his people are within that, because not everyone grasps information the same way, and so figuring out where they are and then meeting them where they are, and then trying to bring them to where that vision is supposed to lead them to. And so just spending time with them, learning them, figuring out their hobbies, figuring out what makes them tick, what motivates them, and then trying to be a part of that, that motivation system with them and for them. Right. But it's meeting them where they are, I think, and then being there for them and with them.
That's great advice. So we got another question. This one came from Charlie Tinsley. Away from Scouting, church, and the family, what does Charles do to recharge? And what are your diversions?
That's a good question. So to that point, Charlie may know this because I may have said this to him, but there were three non-negotiables in my growing up. My dad was a strict disciplinarian, and there were three things that I had no say in, and they were in this order. It was church, school, and Scouting. And so I was going to church, I was going to go to school, and I was going to do Scouting. And it wasn't just go to those organizations. It was you were going to put your best foot forward while you were at those organizations, because he didn't want me to embarrass him, you know, when I was in those organizations, or he would have embarrassed me at that same location. So, and I knew that. So, but in terms of diversions, I like to golf. I'm not good at it, but I like to golf. But like on a rainy day like it is today, I'll start a 1,000 piece puzzle. I mean, I love puzzles. I feel like I'm a problem solver, so I like to put together puzzles. I'll always have a puzzle in progress, and then Sudoku puzzles in my quiet moments, like right as I'm about to go to bed. I'll read, and then I'll do a Sudoku puzzle. I like to work out.
Okay.
Not as like I was talking to Marvin. He told me he wakes up at 5 a.m. and goes running. I was like, buddy, I'm still in REM at 5 a.m. But
We all.
yeah, but shortly after that, I'm trying to roll over and get some type of exercise in. But yeah, those are my diversions: reading, puzzles, Sudoku, golf.
Awesome.
Yeah. Those
So,
are the main ones. Spending time with family too, but he said I couldn't say that one.
okay. What's your favorite poem? Martez wants to know this one. Martez Moore.
I think Martez knows what my favorite poem is. No, I'm just joking. No, so if by Rudyard Kipling is my favorite poem.
Okay.
I had to learn that as a 10th grader, and for those who know the poem, well, first off, the author Rudyard Kipling was one of the first commissioners of the Boy Scouts of America, and so that sort of motivated me to learn the poem. But he also, if you know the poem, or if you've read it, it's a letter from a father to a son, and you can tell that the son is about to make his way out into the world. And this is the dad's last time to express upon the son some admonitions, some of the life lessons that he's taught the son along the way, and he just put it in a poem. And I love that poem, and so I think Martez has heard me say it before, but that is my favorite poem.
Good deal. Awesome. I think this one might have been already asked. I think there was a question in here by John Coleman. What advice would you share to our younger executives to prepare them to serve as a Scout executive? So I think that one was the answer. But if you want to.
Well, so that there's a nuance to that one. So he said to serve as a Scout executive, and I would say it's slightly different from the answer I gave with Tracy. I would say learn your financials, and learn them inside and out, and be good at that. Understand that the role you play now as a district executive is very similar to the role of a Scout executive. Mine is all the governance. So learning how to work with and for your volunteers, you have to learn that. Learn that interconnectedness between them and us. And again, just learn all that you can about the communities that you serve, and become a servant leader within that. But the first key is, you got to know your fiscals. You got to understand those, and at every level of our organization, you have to be a good fundraiser. So again, understanding the anatomy of a sales call, and that will serve you well. Is if you can sell to anything. You can sell volunteerism, you can sell, the time and the talents, but you could also sell the need for our treasure.
Awesome. Good deal. All right. So here's some fun ones. Don't think too hard.
Okay. First reaction.
So, what's your favorite dessert?
Favorite dessert, lemon chess pie.
Oh, hey now.
And yeah, and that's the best ones are from U Crops. It's a little family-owned thing from in Richmond called U Crops, but the lemon chess pie. Now I bake, and the thing I like to bake the most are pound cakes, any variety of pound cake. But my favorite dessert is the lemon chess pie.
Get out of it. I'm a pound cake girl, so I love pound cakes.
Well, you might have one coming to you.
Oh, well, hey now. I love it. Okay. Are you a dog or cat person?
Neither.
No.
Neither. Sorry.
So form of preferred communication. This seems to kind of be an interesting one. Do you like to talk, text, or email?
So I like all of them, but it depends on the complexity of the conversation
Get that.
and if it's going to be elongated or not. So if it's something quick that I can answer immediately, I'll text you. I tell my team, if it's going to take me more than a paragraph to explain it in an email, then I'm calling you. It's easier that way for me. But yeah, however, I mean, I think I'm pretty tech savvy and pretty I respond to all three. But I guess I prefer calling you. It's easier that way for me.
Okay. What's your leadership pet peeve? Like what absolutely gets on your nerves and drives you crazy?
Biggest one, I guess, is not doing what you say you're going to do.
Okay.
Especially, I go back to just being accountable for your actions, accountable for the outcomes of your district, and then coming up with a bunch of reasons why it couldn't be done. That's probably the biggest.
Okay. Good deal. So Kenna asks, is there any advice you would give your younger self to help you stay grounded throughout your career?
Kenna works on my staff, so God bless you, Kenna. Thank you for that question. So something I would say to young Charles. I guess I go back to, what I said in the beginning. I mean, I was sort of impatient. I sort of wanted, I felt like I should have, moved through Richmond a little quicker. And then from there, assume the chair. I sort of had a goal once I jumped over the hurdle. So the funny story is, much like most professionals, I told my Scout executive, I'll give you 3 years, and then I want to go back to, to my dream of being a city manager. And again, God had other plans for me, but I'll just say, be patient. Be patient. To young Charles.
Good deal. Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal.
That would be the one thing I would say to him.
Awesome. William Bryan asks, whom are some of your outside mentors and sponsors that are not in scouting, away from scouting? Who are your outside mentors and sponsors?
Certainly, past council presidents. I have a great relationship with a guy named Mike Abramson, who was my council president in Connecticut. Guy named Chris Louise. He owns a cybersecurity company. He's a level-headed man. He's a man of faith. He's a good family man. I mean, all the things that I aspire to be and to emulate. Those are two. Bill Davis was my first council president here in Raleigh. I think the world of him. I mean, there were some from my younger years that poured into me.
Okay.
But yeah, those I would go with those three for now.
Okay.
But again, I'm like I said, I'm that proverbial turtle. I did not get up on a fence post by myself.
Good deal. Awesome. All right, 2 more, and then we're gonna have to wrap up. So
Oh no.
I know, right? Already, right? All right. So first one, what song is at the top of your playlist?
Now,
Is
that's
it
a
that
good
hard?
one. That's a good one. So trying to think of the last song that I heard. So I'm in different zones at times. So if I'm painting, so if I'm painting, the house, I have jazz or gospel going through my ears. But if I'm cutting the grass or doing any type of yard work, I'm in hip hop land.
All right. Hey now.
And so, you know,
Just a song.
Jay-Z, J. Cole, any of
There we
those guys.
go. All right. All right. There we go. We'll
Yeah,
take
any
it.
of those guys. I mean, even old school hip hop, Rakim and LL.
Hey, speaking my language. All right. And the last question. If you just won the lottery, what's the first thing you would purchase?
It's interesting that you phrase it that way, because the first thing I would do with the money is tithe. 10%.
Hey.
Yeah, 10% going to 10% going to the church. But the first thing I would buy.
Yep.
My wife. So when we retire,
Okay.
my wife wants to get an RV, and we want to hit the 50 states in a meaningful way. So we had that as a goal as a family before my daughter graduated high school, to hit all 50 states. We only made it to 38 of them. But she wants to still hit all 50. And so she wants to, buy an RV. And so that would probably be the purchase. I'd buy her the biggest and the baddest RV, and we would go tour. I've had a goal too. I've had a couple. One is to hit all 438 national state parks.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to go to every basketball arena. And so while we're in each of those, while we're visiting the 50 states in that RV, those are some of the things we would do.
Well, make sure it's the nicest RV, because you probably still have to make up for leaving Texas.
You better believe it. You better believe it. No, she has been a rock. I could not have done the 29 years of scouting without her. I mean, to whoever's question that was about mentors. I think it was my friend Williams' question about mentors outside of scouting. I mean, my wife, she's a brilliant lady and just a rock, a pillar. And so she has definitely been a mentor to me, picked me up when I needed to be picked up, and has grounded me when I needed to be grounded.
Amen.
And so, yeah, she's deserving of that. So when you asked me that question, it went first to my Lord and Savior, but then secondly, it went to her, because that's the debt I owe at this point.
Well, Charles, thank you very much. I appreciate you getting personal and candid with us this afternoon. I appreciate you answering all the questions that came in from the chat. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'm going to turn this over to our fearless leader, because I'm quite sure he probably has some things to say.
Ms. Tanya, you have been super kind to me, and I appreciate that. You issued grace where grace was needed. Because you could have asked some different questions now. You could have me squirming.
Thank you very much. Alan,
thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you both, Charles. We really appreciate it, man. Thanks for taking the time out your schedule today to be with us. And Tanya, thank you for a good interview. We appreciate everyone who's jumped on as well. Stay tuned. September 20th, mark your calendars. We have Mr. Garrett Williams that's coming up next, Scout Executive from Georgia. So look out for more information on that. But look out for more information from the village as well. We still have our mentorship program. If you are interested in being a mentor, or if you want to be a mentee and you're looking for a mentor, shoot an email to myself, to Tanya, Martez, William, Nisha, any of our village leadership team members. Send us some information, and we'll make sure we connect you with someone from the village to be your mentor. And if you want to be a mentor, just let us know as well. And we have some mentees out there that we can connect you with as well. But look out for some different things that we would like to do in the upcoming future. We want to do some roundtables, let this group get to know each other a little bit better as well. So just stay tuned to the workplace page. If you are not subscribed there, you want to make sure you do that. And then that way you get all the latest and greatest information. So with that said, until next time, folks, we will catch you guys later.
Thanks, everyone. Happy scouting.
Just for you, Charles.
What's that?
We got this for you.
What you got for me? Oh, there you go. I'm bad. I love it.
An awesome song.
That's 1987 action right
Love
there.
We're good.
Yes, indeed.
Didn't
Why
he,
stop
no,